All right, hey guys, Mr. Kyle, Myers Mathematics, and we're going to jump right into it. This is a question for a particular student, but if you also have this problem or one similar to it, hopefully it's helpful for you too. We are on number 8, answering the following for the parabola f of x equals 1/2 x squared plus 6x plus 1. So right off the bat, before we even get into it here, in any time the quadratic or parabola is in standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c is the y-intercept. So we automatically know the y-intercept right off the bat, which is actually part D. So we know what intercept is, you could say y equals 1, or it would be more correct to say 0, 1 for the y-intercept. And that's because of that value right there. Okay, so if it's in standard form, you automatically know the y-intercept. If it's in vertex form, you know the vertex, shocker. And then if it's in factored form, then you know the x-intercepts. And they're going to want all of those things. They're asking for the vertex first because it is kind of important to find out what the vertex is. But it's also helpful to know what the x-intercepts are and things like that. We are going to sketch this graph eventually. Part E says sketch the graph. So if you have to sketch the graph anyways, it might be helpful to do that as soon as you can. And finding the vertex is probably the best starting point to sketching the graph, because once you find the vertex, everything else kind of just falls in place, whether it's opening up or down. In this case, it's going to be opening up, but we can see that just by graphing it once we do. So I think I have grid lines on here if I scroll in enough. Can you guys see those? You guys can see those grid lines. Yeah. So they're a little bit lighter on my side for some reason, but it looks like you guys can see those. So grid lines here, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit, move this over here, and we're going to grab these grids. So we're going to draw some lines. Let's see. It's kind of interesting the way you have to draw lines on here. So I'm going to move this like this, and we're going to go 0 degrees. Okay. And then 90 degrees. Am I right on the grid lines? I am. I'm going to use this one over here because it seems like, let's see. There it is. I want to try to get it as close as I can. Nope, I want to draw on it. There we go. Okay. How do we do there? That's pretty close. Okay. So I'm going to get rid of this now, this little ruler thing here, because I've got my grid lines drawn. And we know that there's a y-intercept at 1. So that's going to be, you know what, I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can see these lines a little better myself. For whatever reason. I guess it's the glare from outside, but it's kind of hard to see these lines. Is that right there? Come on. It's just really hard to see. I'm like literally having to use the share screen in order to see where y equals 1 is at. Okay. So there's the y-intercept. We can go ahead and plot that now. But we do want to find the vertex, so I'm going to switch colors a little bit here to find the vertex. So if we want to find the vertex, there's two different ways to do it. You can either put it in vertex form by using completing the square, or you can use the formulas to find out what the vertex is and then put it in vertex form that way. I actually prefer to do it the second way, and so we're going to do it that way. A, we already know, is 1/2. Oh, you guys can't see that. Let me move this over. A is 1/2. We need to find what h is, and we need to find what k is in order to put it in vertex form. And if we want to find out vertex form, let's see. Let's write it right here maybe. So for vertex form, we need the vertex formula, which is h is equal to negative b over 2a. So negative b over 2 times a. 1/2 of 2 is 1. Anything over 1 is itself. So h is negative 6. Okay. Then I can plug that back in to figure out what k is. So f of h is k. And I just plug in negative 6. So 1/2 negative 6 squared plus 6 times negative 6 plus 1. So that's 6 squared is going to be 36. 36 over 2 is 18. And then that's going to be minus 36 plus 1. So that's going to be negative 18 plus 1 is negative 17. So negative 17. There we go. And so now we have everything. We have all the ingredients. We have all the ingredients for vertex form. So then vertex form is going to be y equals, or f of x equals, a parentheses x minus h, so x minus negative 6, which is x plus 6, squared, plus k, so plus negative 17, which is the same thing as just subtracting 17. Okay, so there's vertex form, which means we know the vertex. The vertex is negative 6, negative 17. Now, I didn't quite plan for that to be so far down there, so what we'll probably do is we'll just kind of just say that it's way down here somewhere, and we'll just leave it at that. So it's way down here somewhere. And then it wants to know if it's going to have a max or a min. Well, if we connect the dots here, it looks like it's going to go like that, which means it's also going to go over here as well. So if right over here is negative 6, then somewhere over here would be negative 12, which is where the other side of that point would be. Every point has a mirror point, because a parabola is going to be the same on the left as it is on the right. So that's what I would look like, more or less. And there we go. So does it have a max or does it have a min? Well, we can see from the graph now that it has a min. Now, if you didn't want to graph it first, if you wanted to just figure out what it was, you could just use some of the information about the graph to figure out what it is. So we know that the graph is a parabola, so it's going to have one max or one min. And then whether A is positive or negative tells you whether it's a max or min. If A is positive, then you have a minimum. So positive, think about it as a positive graph, right? This is a positive person. He's very happy. Or if A was negative, then it would be a frowning graph. It would be an upside down parabola, right? So you can draw the little eyes on top of that and say that it's a negative parabola. So just a little way to remember that. Does it have a max or a min? State which and why. So we would say min, because, and actually I want to put this in yellow because that's to do with the vertex. So it would have a minimum because A is positive. Positive. All right. Sketch the graph. We already kind of did that. So sketch the graph. State the domain and range. I'm going to come back to the x-intercepts because they're probably going to take the longest out of everything. Domain and range. So domain of every parabola ever, that's a parabola function at least, is going to be all reals. So we would just say that's all reals. All real numbers. So the domain is going to be all real numbers or negative infinity to infinity. The range, though, so the range of any parabola is going to be either from the y value of the minimum up to infinity or from negative infinity up to the minimum. So because we have a minimum, we're going to start there and go up to infinity. The y value of the vertex is negative 17. And then we go to infinity, parentheses. Okay, cool. So I think we've answered pretty much everything now, except for the x-intercept. So I'm going to switch to blue here. So if you're finding the x-intercepts, you could try to factor it, but I don't think there's going to be any factors of 1/2 that give us 6, at least not in the rational number system. So we would have to use the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula gives you the x-intercepts. So x is equal to negative b plus or minus. Now I'm going to do the square root part kind of off to the side a little bit here. So I'm going to do this part off to the side. And that's going to be b squared minus 4ac. So b squared, 36, 6 squared, minus 4 times 1/2 is 2, times 1 is 2. 4ac. So 4 times a times c. That's 34. And that's not really going to simplify. So we're just going to put that right here. All over 2a, which that's going to be 2 times 1/2 again. So that's going to be 1. So I don't need that denominator. X is going to be equal to negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 34. And that's as far as you can go unless you, type it into a calculator, and then it's going to be getting you decimal approximations for answers. 34 is close to 36, and the square root of 36 is 6. So one of the x-intercepts is going to be close to 0. Negative 6 plus 6 is 0. So one of the x-intercepts is close to 0, and we can already see that right there. It's very close to 0. The other one is going to be basically negative 6 minus 6, which is negative 12. And we can see that it would basically be all the way over there at negative 12. And that's it. So if you need to list them separately and kind of in a more formal way, you could do that like this. It would be negative 6 plus root 34, comma 0, and negative 6 minus root 34, comma 0. Or if you just wanted to list them as 1 point, you probably could do that. Most teachers would probably be okay with that. You could just say like this, comma 0, and just put the plus minus in there, and that would work as well. So hopefully that's been helpful. If it has, then let me know. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Shoot me a comment in the video if I missed anything, if maybe your problem was similar to this, but they want to know some extra information that I didn't talk about in this video, anything like that. And also you can find more things on my website, Myers Mathematics, like the 5 math mistakes everyone makes and how to avoid them. So go check that out, and I'll catch you in the next video.